Welcome, everyone. I hope you can forgive the clickbaity title, but it might mean that perhaps more people click on this video and start thinking about a few things that I'd like to address here. Now, why would I proclaim that you are killing your inner voice? In some sense, this video might very well actually contribute to that. You might be listening to this video without thinking very much. Maybe this is just being served up in your automatic feed. The next video playing, and you might not even be fully aware of what you're listening to right now. You might be listening to this as you're falling asleep, or to any other old podcast or video recording, etc. And I think what this leads to is that the inner voice is slowly dying, or is actually being slaughtered by us. In a sense, this inner voice is not really your voice either. It's not you speaking to yourself. It's rather a inner voice. It's an inner voice that is independent to a certain extent, even of us, and it helps us though to gain full consciousness of ourselves. There's a letter by Nietzsche from I think 1876 where he says that to him what would constitute happiness, what would be his happiness or his contentness, is if he were just to follow and listen to his or eine innere Stimme, he says, an inner voice. In Wilhelm Meister, Goethe also refers to the innere Stimme, to the inner voice, as something that helps one recall and remember what one is supposed to do. Heidegger, for example, speaks of the call of the friend in Being in Time, where it's unclear what the friend is. It could actually be death that's calling you forth to become who you really are, to become your most authentic self. But only when you're listening to the inner voice. Now, if you think about it, if I basically perhaps just caught you off guard here as you're listening to this, almost just with one headphone in, one earbud in, I mean, perhaps on your way to work, or perhaps while you're brushing your teeth, or perhaps while you're uh, um, going to work, etc., just so that there is a voice in your head that isn't yours, that isn't that inner voice. Maybe you even require listening to someone else while you're falling asleep because the voices in your head would just be too loud. Now, I think that this is a rather striking phenomenon, that you're basically externalizing your inner voice to other people's voices. And at the end, you don't even know where some of your quote unquote thoughts come from, and your wild associations. It's in some sense, we're giving ourselves a lobotomy with this constant content that we're exposing ourselves to. And in some sense, it's rewiring our brains, of course. So I would hope that perhaps you begin being more attentive in what you're listening to. Let's say you like listening to certain philosophy or poetry or literature lectures on YouTube, but if you do so, or any other platform, of course, but if you do so, then you should really take it seriously, like you would when listening to a lecture at university. So actually take the time. Don't do it sort of just in between, or so that something is, so that the inner voice is numbed or is crowded out. No, do it attentively. Be aware of what you're listening to. Take notes, etc. and also restrict yourself. Restrict the amount of content. Be very, very selective. Don't hear most things. Don't see most things, as Nietzsche says. Or else, we don't only risk, we've already become merely reactive talents, as Nietzsche points out already in the 19th century, where we just react to stimuli from without. I also highly recommend everyone to read the short story The Machine Stops by E.M. Forster, where Forster describes our very world more than 100 years ago. He describes people living underground in pots without teeth because they only eat liquid food, and they are in touch with each other, but only insofar as they talk about ideas, using something like Zoom, using a tablet to communicate with each other. And so incredibly visionary, the story. Eerily visionary. How far he could see into the future. Too far into the future did I see, dread came upon me, says Nietzsche's Zarathustra. So, and this, this urge to be affected by ideas that come from without, by basically micro stimuli, is a sort of addiction. And the so-called attention economy is actually, as one of our students, Kevin, pointed out at the Heidegger course on technology last year, is actually, it's a perversion of terms, because it takes away your attention and doesn't let you tend to what you need to tend to. And of course, in some sense, this video contributes to it. I used a clickbait title to, quite obviously, to draw people in, but also to draw people in to make you perhaps aware of the pitfalls and the dangers of this sheer infinite content machinery. So I'd really just like to encourage you for this year, given that it's early 2026 now, to be extremely selective with what you see and what you listen to, because most things don't matter ultimately, and be extremely selective and focused. And so I wish you a very good year, and maybe at the end of this year, think back on it, whether you've managed to be more attentive, more selective, and also realize that, again, most things that seem to be important aren't. What really matters is that you begin remembering who you are. Thank you.